Ladies and gentlemen, unless you've been living under a rock like Dwayne Johnson's kids, or Patrick Star from SpongeBob, or living in the past like Ethiopia's calendar, you know they're 8 years behind the rest of us. How is that possible? You would know that the United States, under President Trump's leadership, has been engaged in a very intense maximum pressure campaign on the socialist regime of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. Indeed, we've been building up forces. The USS Gerald R. Ford, our aircraft carrier, and its strike group just showed up. The socialist leader initially wanted to talk a big game. He was like, yeah, we're going to defend our sovereignty. But man, when it came time to walk that walk, he turned into Greg Abbott fast. He couldn't get up and walk his talk. President Trump and Marco Rubio are taking things to that next level. And it looks like Maduro is saying, all right, I'm sorry. In fact, Maduro has been doing this thing where he goes on press conferences and says, not war, peace, peace, not war, not war, peace. Here he is recently.
Segundo punto de trabajo. Peace, peace, peace. Hacer todo por la paz. Como decía John Lennon, ¿no? Alfred Nazaret, ¿cómo era la canción de John Lennon? Imagine us people.
Is he holding a concert? What is going on in the socialist utopia of Venezuela? So this clown has been, peace, peace, not the war, peace, peace, not the war. And, well, President Trump just announced that actually Maduro wants to talk.
Venezuela, Mr. President, on Venezuela update?
No update on Venezuela.
With the designation of that cartel associated with Maduro, does that mean that the U.S. government can target Maduro's assets or infrastructure inside Venezuela?
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
Interesting, ladies and gentlemen, interesting. So that designation Trump is referring to is what the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, oh, what am I doing? I'm looking small, man. Wow. Okay. Rubio posted that the State Department intends to designate Cartel de los Soles, so Cartel of the Suns, as a foreign terrorist organization. The organization headed by the illegitimate Nicolas Maduro. The group has corrupted the institutions of government in Venezuela and is responsible for terrorist violence conducted by and with other designated FTOs, as well as for trafficking drugs into the United States and Europe. This is massive. When you designate an organization as a terrorist organization, that gives the president authority to strike militarily. So this standoff, this pressure that's been building up like the Hoover Dam, all this pressure is heading one way. And now Maduro's like, oh my gosh, talk, we need to talk. Peace, not war. This guy, man, he's so funny. And here's President Trump expanding on Venezuela and explaining to people that this is a very critical thing that he's doing.
Are you discussing options with Congress? Are you going to Congress to discuss potential options?
We like to keep Congress involved. I mean, we're stopping drug dealers and drugs from coming into our country. And I actually told Marco and some of the people, our Secretary of State is doing a great job, by the way, I said, go to Congress and let them know we're not letting drugs come through Mexico. We're not letting them come through Venezuela. And let Congress know about it. We don't have to get their approval, but I think letting them know is good. The only thing I don't want them to do is leak information that's very important and confidential and may put our military at risk, or whoever is doing, CIA, military, etc. But I did say, I said, go and see Congress, see the representatives that we're supposed to be seeing, and be open about it. If they say, we don't want you to stop drugs from coming into the country, I don't think that would be good, yes.
Are any other countries committed to helping the U.S. with Venezuela, or is all our action still?
Yeah, we have great support because it's all about drugs. Well, in Venezuela's case, it's about drugs, and it's also about thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that they've released into our country. And some are gang members from Tren de Aragua. Some are many are drug dealers. Some are murderers. So in the case of Venezuela, it's the prison population. Their almost entire prison population was released into the United States. You know what that means? Their prison population was released into the United States.
That's a very important thing that he just said there. Venezuela allowed hundreds of thousands of their citizens to flee to the U.S. southern border. And the Biden administration, of course, let them through, unvetted, and a lot of them took over American cities. Aurora, Colorado is still suffering reputational destruction from that whole debacle. So what President Trump is saying there is absolutely crucial. Think about it this way. If narco-terrorists are coming out of Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, and others, and bringing drugs into the United States, doesn't it make sense to destroy them before they get here? And if you can destroy them while also achieving your strategic aim of removing Maduro from power because he aligns with our enemies, then why not kill two stones with one bird? Plus, the Venezuelan people support it overwhelmingly. Posted a video about 2 weeks ago on this issue, and I would implore everyone to go watch it to understand the nuances of the whole situation. Maduro is illegitimate. Last year's election in July proved that. I reported on it extensively on my X account. It was a nationwide repudiation of Maduro's regime. But of course, like any good socialist, he unilaterally declared himself winner. Maduro is absolutely terrified of Trump and will give up and surrender the first chance he gets. The New York Times reported on October 10th, saying Maduro authorized Venezuelan officials to propose a sweeping deal giving the United States a dominant stake in Venezuela's vast oil reserves and mineral wealth. This included prioritizing American companies for oil and gold projects, redirecting oil exports from China to the United States, and terminating contracts with adversaries like China, Iran, and Russia. The goal was to avert U.S. military intervention amid escalating tensions. The Atlantic also reported on Maduro being open to a managed exit if the U.S. offered him amnesty for him and his inner circle, lifted bounties on Venezuelan officials, and ensured a comfortable exile, because he knows he's going to jail the moment he steps out of power. The amount of crimes Maduro has committed on his own citizens throughout his tenure as their president is innumerable. So he wants the United States to let him go exile somewhere like Cuba safely. I've already talked about why this is important for America in the video I made. I would implore you guys to go check that out. The people in the Trump administration obviously subscribe to the Monroe Doctrine, which is a foreign policy worldview that says Europe and Asia and other regions are not of interest to the United States, and we're going to stay out of those regions, but the Western Hemisphere should be our focus. It's our home. The things that happen in the nations around us matter a lot. They matter for our economy and for our national security. So it's in our best interest to manage the things that go on with our neighbors. So we can't have Venezuela or Brazil or Cuba or any other country aligning with the Chinese Communist Party or the Russians or the Europeans or any other entity that is not America. We are the most powerful and richest country in the world. Our neighbors can't be sleeping with our enemies. The Monroe Doctrine, authored by then Secretary of State John Quincy Adams under President James Monroe, to me is one of the purest foreign policy worldviews that we have. I think it's America first. Getting entangled in the Middle East and Europe and China and all these different places is of no benefit to the United States or its people. But making sure countries like Colombia and Venezuela and Mexico aren't sending drugs into our country or illegals into our country is very important, and it impacts all of our lives. Thank you all very much for watching. God bless and goodbye.